Test, test. Test, test. All right, so we're going to get back to the analysis here. So the first thing we want to do to start the week off is check out the DXY. Now, I mostly trade USD pairs because I am in the US and it works better with my schedule. So let's start off with the DXY. So overall, if we check out like the monthly time frame, what we can see is that we're heavily bearish right now. I did do a video on the DXY falling from this head and shoulders pattern. Now, it's still playing out. We're almost to what I'll call like the neckline, but I do potentially see this playing out and falling down here. Now, on a more micro scale, you can see that price made lower high and a lower low here, and is potentially respecting this resistance level over here. All right, so what we can see also is that price did hit a level of support, popped up, rejected resistance, and so on. So I do potentially see this as a rejection to resistance, and we can maintain to push lower. Now, if we go to the weekly time frame now, we can see that price was doing this little minor pullback, so we started making minor higher low points. And overall, we retested up here, got a bearish engulfing candlestick. Price retested resistance one more time and closed all the way back down here bearish. All right, so this tells us that a lot of bearish momentum is in the market currently at these levels. Now, the next thing I would want to do is drop down to the daily time frame. And from the daily time frame, what I like to do is highlight my daily zones. And also, guys, please put in the comments what pairs you would like me to mark up, what's your bias and all that kind of stuff. And we can see if ours align or, all that good stuff. So overall, I want to fine tune my zones to the H4 time frame. This gives me my overall reaction areas. All right, so once we have that, what we want to look at is our structure on the H4 time frame. You can see that our last lower high that led to a lower low was here. We got a pullback here. So I'm sorry, this is actually our last lower high that led to a lower low. And then we actually broke structure to a uptrend, but we never confirmed that. It was an overshoot because we never got a higher high, higher low to a new higher high. Instead, we got a higher high breakout and then right back down to the low. All right, so this was overall an overshoot of this resistance area. Now you can see that we continue to make lower highs and lower lows on this time frame. So what I'll be doing is putting an H4 zone right here. I'll turn off extend. But that's my overall interaction level that I'll be looking to be maintained right now. Also, if you notice when we zoom out, we actually have a trend line that was broken. So if we start from this wick here and draw into the future, what we can see is price respected this trend line several times, even over here, and we broke out once. We tried to get that break and retest, but price just didn't give us that follow through that we needed. Instead, it spiked back up, and then it shot right back under this trend line here. So overall, I do think if we can hold this trend line break and potentially use this as resistance, maybe even like a wick spike up to this trend line and then a rejection, we can definitely see more downside. All right, so with us knowing that information, what we can do is go to our actual trading pairs now, like the AUD USD, for an example. Let's check that out. All right, and overall, you can see like daily just had a big move. I was actually able to catch this for about 103 pips, but we actually broke through a daily level, and then we also broke through a weekly level. So now we're kind of floating in this area where if we look to the left, there's nothing over here. So we definitely have to look further to the left to see potentially, where price may want to retest before it stops or reverses. All right, so this is our daily demand zone down here. So let's go ahead and fine tune that really quick. All right, and we're just fine tuning it to the wicks on the H4 time frame here. And then what we can do is go to the daily time frame, zoom out, and look for the next place that price can potentially want to retest. All right, so you can see this area right here is the next place that price would reach. So we can highlight those wicks there, turn on extend, and then we can also highlight this one just in case price decides it just wants to, smash through this zone. All right, so overall, this is around March 18th. So let's go to the H4. I think I already have it set actually. Yeah, March 2018. Cool. And then what we'll do is just fine tune our zones to those wicks on the H4. All right, so those give us basically levels of interaction that we could potentially see on the daily time frame. All right, so now that we have that marked out, we can focus on our analysis on the H4 time frame. So I already had this drawn from last week, but I'll redo it for you guys. But I did have a trend line right here that was respected once, twice, 3 times, and 4 times. So this definitely was a level that held price upwards. Also, if you check out the H8 time frame, you can see that this was actually a support level that was maintained about 3 or 4 times as well. All right, so back to the H4. I can also notice that we did have like a trend line on the top side of price action as well here. If you notice, price actually broke through it, retested, and potentially could continue maintaining it up to this daily zone. All right, so what I'll be looking for overall to take a trade on this pair is potentially a break above our daily zone for a continued buy. So like if I wanted to continue the overall momentum of this market currently, what I'll be looking for is for price to break through this zone, retest on the H4, give me in a zone based off of exhaustion and liquidity. I'll be looking for a trade off the second tap. Of course, on the lower time frames, like the 3-minute break of structure with the trend line break, retest, and a bullish engulfing or hammer candlestick, something like that, to continue overall trading it up to the next daily level. Now, if price does hit this level up here and shows rejection and doesn't actually start breaking structures, then we definitely want to stay objective to that. Now, for an example, there can also be downside off of this level as well, because it is a daily level. So what I would be looking for to take sales on this pair would be basically for price to make higher lows on lower time frame. I would keep my trend line, based off of, those little taps on the lower time frames, like a 3-minute, 5-minute, 15-minute. And then once we actually break this trend line, that's when I understand the transition is coming in. The momentum of the bears are pushing the market down. Now, we don't want to jump the gun on this. We always want to stay objective with our trading. So make sure that all the time frames are transitioning bearish if that is the case. For example, M1, M3, M5, M15, H1, they all need to start transitioning, okay? So currently we don't have any structure up here to kind of base off of, but let's say that this was the last H4 support. Overall, if you were trying to swing this back down lower, we would need to see a transition on the H4, which means that price would need to put in lower highs to build up enough momentum to break through that level. All right, so nonetheless, if we do end up getting a nice pullback instead of the bullish momentum, I do potentially see that we could use this previous high on the daily time frame. We could potentially use that as like a level of support now. So we just have to be objective. Now, since we did have this trend line, that does make me think that as long as we can maintain above this, then we'll definitely see more upside on this. All right, so that would be my buys for AU. Overall, I'm very bullish on this. I do think that we could tap this zone before even seeing a pullback, but we could also just smash through this zone. Like if you check out the higher time frames on it, like the yearly time frame, what we can see is that price retested its impulse level. All right, and we also got a double bottom off of that level, closed a nice rejection candlestick that ended up very bullish, almost a bullish engulfing. So it can definitely, have enough momentum to just shoot and continue up. All right. So checking out the monthly time frame, you can also see our last level on the monthly time frame is way up here. So we can see price push back up to those levels eventually. All right. So that would be my bias on AUD USD. Let me check out. Let's check out Eur USD. Yo, what's up, Dustin? What's up, Donna? I wanted to know if making 10% per month, risking 1% per trade would be possible. Yeah, that's definitely possible. That's honestly the best way to trade personally. Now, if you watch how I trade and watch the other videos, what you'll see is that I usually risk 0.5 to 1%, and then my take profits are usually risk to rewards of like 1 to 3 and so on. So I actually caught AUD. I caught 100 pips on it, and it actually went for like 1 to 9, 1 to 10. So it's definitely possible to make 10%, and that's actually the best way to do it. You do not want to over leverage. You do not want to use, I would honestly say more than 2% of your account. Of course, like if you're trying to grow a smaller account, that's hard to do, but you definitely want to try to stay around 1% for sure. Now, I would say the best I've ever done risking 1% was like 23% or something like that in a month. That was definitely, also because the market was trending very well. But yeah, it's definitely possible. It's definitely possible. I can see AUD USD wanting to continue bullish. In the last week with strong momentum. Yeah, I definitely think it's going to maintain bullishness. Like I said, it could bounce off of that first red daily zone that we have, and give us a slight retrace before continuing, or it can just smash through it. So I'm definitely interested to see how the market even opens up at 2 p.m. for us. All right, so let's check out Eur USD. So let's start off on like the monthly again. All right, we can see that overall the monthly was making a bullish structure. We just retested previous resistance as support, rejected with a nice candlestick. On the weekly time frame, it looks like we found some kind of support here, and it's basically vice versa of the DXY. So let's drop down to the dollar, or I'm sorry, drop down to the daily. over here trying to say DXY dollar. If we drop down to the daily, what we can do is draw a zone off of the last level of support we created, and then also off of the last level of resistance we created. Then what we'll do is just fine tune it to the wicks. And basically, by us being able to fine tune it to the wicks, it gives us a smaller area of interaction we're looking for the market to make. All right. So on DXY, we've seen that the market was breaking a trend line. It was retesting, and it was showing that it was a potential lower high, right? So we don't see that same trend line per se on, actually, let's see. I do see a trend line. Let's see. Yeah, so Eur USD's trend line is a little bit different, but we do overall have a break here. I think this one was a little bit more exaggerated than on the DXY. So we can see this clean breakout here. So as long as price maintains this break, we potentially could see a nice push upwards. Now, breaking down, the levels that price have just broken through, we check the 8-hour time frame, but we could see is that overall this was a very strong level of support on the 8-hour time frame as well as H4. So for price to just kind of like smash through that, that shows that the market is very bullish at this moment. Now, it is technically in a retrace right now, so potentially if price wanted to continue falling, this is a level that I would potentially see strong enough to hold price up to continue that overall bullish momentum. Now, on the on the H1, let me see. I did have a trend line drawn on the H1. Let me find it again. I think it was this one right here. And overall, price is respecting it. As you can see, we have point A to point B, and then a point C right here. And you can see prices coming back down to it right now. So overall, if we can hold this trend line as well, we can definitely see more upside. Usually around these levels though, like 8-hour levels, you can see nice candlestick spikes. So we might even get a wick that passes this trend line and then a candle that closes back inside of it. And if I seen something like that, that would give me a lot of confirmation, of course, as well as seeing like a 3-minute break of structure and then a bullish engulfing or something like that to push the market upwards. All right, so we are on the H1 time frame currently in bearish price action structure, but nonetheless, like I said, the overall market flow is definitely bullish still. All right, so once we get a bullish candle that closes on the H4 time frame, that is when I would draw my new H4 zone and then basically wait for that retest to the zone and then potentially catch the ride back upwards. All right, so another thing we can notice is that price overall broke structure after it passed this last lower or higher low point here that led to a higher high, because you can see that we had more than 2 candles that pulled back. Now this one, we only had a 1 candle pullback, which is basically a bullish bearish bullish continuation pattern. So once we snap this level here, we retested lower high to a lower low. So we had a confirmed switch on this time frame, but what you can see right now is that price went back up to potentially make a lower high, and it never led to a lower low. Now, if this does not lead to a lower low, which it doesn't look like it's going to do if it maintains these levels, it's definitely going to be a transition and a potential inverted head and shoulders to push price upwards on the weekly time frame and so on. All right, so overall, looking for a trade this week on this pair. Like I said, basically, I'll be looking for interaction at one of these levels. For example, trend line tap here or a tap to the support level here. Once we get one of those taps, I'm looking for transition and then a continuation. All All right, so let's check out GBP All right, we could see that basically GBP kind of went crazy. It's been very, very bullish. If we check out the higher time frames, like the monthly, we can see that we're at a huge double bottom. This is probably on like the yearly time frame or something. But yeah, we're definitely using a lot of momentum and skyrocketing. I do see this area 148 right around there. Potentially could be a level that price is trying to reach. We're at 147.54 right now, so that's about a 50 pip range before we actually hit that level. Let's check out the weekly real quick. So on the weekly, we just cleared this level right around 145.9, basically 146. We just cleared that. So let's do this. Let's go to the daily. And you can see actually we closed a bearish candle here. So we can actually use that high as our last level of supply on the daily time frame. So let's trap price. All right, then we can fine tune the trades. All right, so we can fine tune our zones for our trades. Let's see. All right, and one thing to notice is this level right here is also a very, very strong level. This is a 4-hour zone as well as a H8 zone. So if you see, price retested once and twice here and maintained the overall uptrend structure. Also, you can notice on the H4 time frame, this was the last pullback that was more, or basically 2 candles or more. So we have 2 black candles and then a continuation. All right, so this was the last confirmed higher low on the H4 before getting a pullback. You can see price tried to push back down to this overall demand zone here, and we maintained it and then shot up off of it. We did not break it. All right, so this is a very strong level. So potentially if price does want to fall, I would be expecting this level to be one that it wants to fall to. All right, so let's check out 8 hours. So overall 8 hours still bullish. Yo, what's going on, David? Thanks for checking in. So overall, yeah, we're still bullish on like the H4 daily and all that kind of stuff, but you can see H1 starting to transition. We got our last higher low that led to a higher high here. And basically we're starting to get that price action transition now. So with that price action transition, it's going to push us down to the next levels of support. So what we want to look for this week on GBP is what happens once we interact with this level right here. All right, so are we going to bounce and maintain overall H1 structure, or are we going to break through this level? If we break through this level, we're now going to transition the trend on the H1, which means, and actually also on the H4, because like I said, this is more than a 2 candle pullback that led to a high. So we would transition the H1 and H4 timeframes, which means we would start putting in lower highs and lower lows, potentially lead back to this overall zone on the daily time frame here. Okay. And that would be about a 90 pip range that we could trade in between. All right, so that would be what I'm truly looking for this week on GBP. We've already basically started transitioning, and you can see that this is definitely a bearish rejection as far as daily resistance. So yeah, I would be waiting for that transition. Honestly, since it's so close, we potentially could see this break tonight during London session. Now, another thing to point out as well, this was an overall consolidation area. And one thing I like to do when there's a consolidation area is basically draw a box around it. And then what I want to see is a break, retest, and follow through of that box, right? So if we drew this out, we got a breakout here. We did a retrace, but we never got a follow through to like a continuation. a next leg in structure, which is showing us that this is a false breakout and it's just an overshoot. So price is now falling back in. So yeah, I definitely could see, this going bearish. Let's see if we can find like any trend lines or anything. Honestly, I feel like price was just like a little too strong here to actually draw a trend line that price could want to respect. But let's see what we can find. Maybe a channel. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, maybe I think a channel would work best for this scenario, because we can also see the price respected once, twice, three times, and then once, twice, three times on the bottom here. So yeah, overall, that just kind of gives us more confirmation for the bearish bias going into this week. So potentially we could see price fall back to this trend line here. And then from there, we can either see a bounce back up and some kind of retest to go lower, or we can see price, maintain that bullish structure and continue upwards. So now if we go back to like the daily time frame, we can see, let's go back. But we can see that overall, this would maintain structure on the daily time frame if we retested the side of this channel and then continue going up. So we just want to be, observant, patient, and you only want to take trades from these significant levels in the market. So for an example, if we do get a break of this, you want to wait for a retest. And once you get that retest, instead of targeting this as the H1 level you take profit at, what I would do is target the channel side. Okay, so I target the channel side as my first take profit, and I would roll my stops to, the break even or the minus a few pips or whatever you want to do. But that way, if the trade does decide to pull back up after tapping it, you already profited, you already cashed out and protected yourself. All right, let's check out Gbp Usd. All right, so Gbp Usd was definitely bullish with the DXY. So let's do this. Let's highlight our last demand zone here. Let's go to the H4 time frame. We're going to highlight the wicks. And then what we want to do is scroll to the left until we can find the last place that price could potentially react to. So scroll over. And you can see we're already above this level. We've already closed above it. What we can do though is still draw out that zone, because until we get a break and a retest on the daily time frame, it's technically still valid as a level. So let's highlight that, and then we can of course highlight the one way up here just in case price does push through. All right, so this was April 18. Let's use this. All right, and what we're gonna do is just fine tune the zone to the wicks. All right, then we'll just fly back to current price action. So a few things to notice on this pair right now. Number one is that we do have a break of the daily level, but it needs to maintain it. So if price decides to break back under that level, then potentially we're going to see more downside from this pair. This can easily just turn into an overshoot, then price fall right back under. All right, so we do have a level of support here on the H4 time frame. So I would have a zone there, for an example. But overall, what I'll be looking for at this zone is how price interacts with it. Also, I want to see, how H1 structure looks. Now we can see the last higher low on the H1 was actually here as well, which is a good sign that this could be a strong enough level to hold price up. But nonetheless, you do want to stay objective, because if we do fall back under this daily level, it's going to matter how the actual candle closes. For an example, if we close like a bearish engulfing candle on the daily, that could potentially be strong enough to push us lower. So you do want to pay attention to how the candles are forming on the higher time frames, as well as what the structure is telling us on the higher time, or I'm sorry, the lower time frames, like the 15-minute and so on. So we can see our last higher low that led to a higher high on the 15-minute was around this area. So once we break through that, when we, for example, come down to this level, we need to see all those timeframes transition back bullish in order to take the market up. Okay, if we do not get that transition, then the market is going to continue falling. All right, so for me, the 2 trades I would potentially be looking for, actually maybe 3 trades. Number 1 would be, and I'm just saying from where price is now, if we did maintain this zone, what we could see is a bullish candle close up here, and then a retest. From there, you can draw your zone off of the wicks of this rejection. You could take a trade on the 3-minute break of structure, engulfing to ride the market up higher. All right. Now, if price does want to fall from this level, what we could see is a break of H4 structure here. And if we do see that, you want to wait for a pullback. Once we get a pullback, we potentially could be forming a pattern like a head and shoulders. So we'll have the shoulder here, the head here, and then the shoulder here. And then you wait for that first bullish, bearish rejection to close, draw your zone off of resistance, wait for the retest on lower time frames like the 3-minute. You want to wait for the break of structure and an engulfing, and then take the trade down. All right, once you take the trade down, you can look at this level potentially as a take profit. And then from there, just stay objective. If the market bounces, it's okay, but you want to see overall that the market is maintaining the new lower highs and lower lows that's putting in. Now, if price does something like this, drops back and then starts making a higher low point, potentially you would either want to roll your stops lower, or you would want to, take profit on that trade, because it wouldn't be worth being in this much profit for you to lose it for the trend to switch on you. All right, so that would be my bias as far as right now what we could see. I'm pretty sure, once the market opens in about an hour, we'll kind of see, what the market wants to do on this pair, because usually, you might see a gap or something like that. So if we gap down, potentially it's going to start that whole transition for us. So yeah, we'll just stay objective going into the week. Let's see what else we got. We basically tapped all the pairs. So just a recap real quick. This is my markup on DXY for those who came in a little bit late. So overall, the DXY is heavily bearish on the monthly time frame. I did a video on this. The dollar is falling. It's playing out a head and shoulders pattern. So I do see us falling potentially lower. Same thing for the weekly. Daily time frame overall looks like this. So once again, this is an overshoot. We made a new high. We tried to make a higher low, but we couldn't lead into a new higher high. So this is not a confirmed higher low point. We're potentially continuing the overall downtrend structure. All right, so we tried to break out of this trend line once. We failed and went right back into structure. This time we broke out, and potentially if we can maintain this break, we can definitely see a big drop. Also, we could potentially retest this zone right here, or we could tap this, this trend line level with a wick, and then, start pulling back down, similar to these fashions over here. All right, let's check out AU one more time. So overall, this is my bias on AU and markup. This is the H4 time frame. Overall, I do think that we can maintain this trend line break here and just kind of bounce around and push up higher. Once we do that, this will be a decisive point for, AUD USD. Do we want to just break through this daily level, or do we want to reject it, come back down lower, potentially for some kind of higher low to be made, and then a continuation? So those are questions I would ask myself. Only wait for, the correct confirmations to take your trades. Just be patient. That's the key. EUR USD, like I said, is looking very bullish to me at this moment. We broke past a H4 and H8 level of support. These are the 2 points I would be potentially looking for the market to continue from, as well as if price just decides to make a new level of support for us, then I would take the trade from there. GJ, like I said, we have this channel forming, so we could potentially see price break lower, retest here. And once it hits this level, we can see a retest to what it broke. And from there, it'll either fall lower or it'll make higher lows on lower time frames and continue the overall bullish uptrend structure. Gbp Usd, like I said, we're breaking this level currently, but we need to maintain it. It could be an overshoot. So let's stay objective this week, guys. I'm looking forward to, hearing about the great trades we all take, how much discipline we had in the markets. Thank you guys for tuning in. So I'll definitely start doing this more often, like every week, and then even doing like Q&As and all that kind of stuff to answer you guys' questions. So once again, thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.